Greetings, everybody. The world is a better place because you are here to join us, and my name is Matt Brown, and I am the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. And as
Going
I'm
Atlas,
going,
yeah.
man, I have a hockey hat on while we're about to talk about college football. What's the point? Stay consistent with this, but I'll have this here. But regardless, though, the world's a better place because you are here to join us. My name is Matt Brown, and I'm the host of the Productive Conversations podcast. It is a Wednesday, January 22nd, 2024. And as mentioned, as we just previewed very quickly, we're about to react to the national championship. The College Football National Championship Division One FBS was decided on Monday night. The Ohio State Buckeyes won by a score of 34-23 over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The Ohio State Buckeyes are your national champions in college football. Me and Ryan are about to talk about all about it and react to what was a fine game, a solid, fine football game. It looked like Ohio State was going to run away with it. Notre Dame made a push, but ultimately the Buckeyes secured the bag thanks to a great game from Jeremiah Smith
Mm.
and Will Howard making big plays in there, but give credit to Notre Dame making a push at the end. But ultimately, very interesting, and it was great. Ryan, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
So, how are we
Excited.
feeling though about this, Ryan? Just initial thoughts. Tell me about the game, and then we'll also reflect on where the future of college football is going from here. But
Mm.
ultimately, we had our national championship, and like I said, it was a pretty solid game, and I hope you thought it was as good as I thought it was.
Yeah, especially like I said, the end. It obviously started. It started slow. I would say one. It started slow in general. The first quarter had only one score. Then in the second, Ohio State jumped way out in front. So the first half, it was a little bit uneven. You're like, oh wow, and a little bit kind of boring. I would say.
Yeah, that I
Um,
told you as we talked to her, you thought it was going to be closer. It did a little bit. The spread was 9.5. Ohio State won by 11. They just hit it, but I
yeah,
thought they were going to run away with it, and it was that prediction was looking good at one point,
yeah.
especially
They
when they
did
were up
close it by the
37,
end.
31-7.
Yeah, but I mean, but we said it, on on the predictions show, right? That the key to Notre Dame having a shot would be to keep it close. And at the half, it was not close. It was 14 points different, and I think that was basically the end. Realistically, I understand they made a push and it made the game far more exciting that they made that push at the end, of course, and that's why people are not kind of hating on the game. Nor am I. I thought it was good, but the reality is that yes, obviously Notre Dame was able to rally and get some points, but they were never going to shut Ohio State down. And we talked about that. It's just they have a good defense, although the defense then didn't necessarily play their best this game for Notre Dame. But even with a solid defensive showing, Will Howard and his receiver core is just very, very good. And then his running back got a passing touchdown as well as a running one. So it's
Yeah,
like
Judkins.
Jenkins, yeah, Junkins rather, yeah. So it's to me, I would say that was always going to be the case, and it was a matter of keeping it close by time you got to it. Because when you look at it, Ohio didn't score in the first, but it was 21-10 and 3. So Ohio consistently got themselves into scoring positions every quarter, right? And that's why you got to keep it close. If you can't keep it close, then Ohio's always going to score. So if you're going to have a bunch of scoreless or low scoring quarters, you're going to end up behind just mathematically, and that's what happened, unfortunately for Notre Dame. But
Yes, it did, but ultimately, we'll get a little more detail with that. But before we do, I just want to also remind you to like, subscribe to the Productive Conversations podcast on all podcast platforms and YouTube. And don't forget to check out exclusive content regarding the show across all social media platforms. We're on TikTok, glad to see you, at Productive Conversations, Instagram at Productive Conversations Podcast, Twitter at PodConvoPod, and Facebook at Productive Conversations. And don't forget to check out our friends at Magic Mind. Go to magicmind.com/PCJN for 45% of your mood boosting or sleep aid shots. So, Ryan, I was wondering in the first quarter, the
Mhm.
18 play, 75-yard first quarter
Yep.
that led to Notre Dame taking an early lead
Mhm.
with Riley Leonard running in. Did you think at any point, wow, this is ours to take? Maybe this is going to be a lot closer than we think. Maybe Notre Dame was ready and had the game plan set, and then
Mm.
Ohio State did score 31 unanswered points after
Yes,
that.
they did. I mean, so, it's hard to get super excited about a single score, obviously. But I guess if you're looking at it from a strategy point, like you said, they burned a ton of that quarter, right? It was a long quarter. It was a long quarter for them, not for Ohio, and that is a good strategy. If you're holding on to the ball, that means Ohio can't score. And again, Ohio
Can't win if you
is a
can't
very
score. That's going to be a
right,
big I think
yeah.
that's going to be a big strategy for the Bills going in the AFC
Mhm.
Championship, and I'll have more detail on that at the end of the week. Make sure you don't give the Chiefs any time of possession.
Right, and that's kind of I think that was probably the game plan for Notre Dame, and like I said, that's a smart game plan. Maybe you can only score 7, but if they can't score anything, and that's consistently the case, they never have time to score, you only get 7 points or 3 points, and they only have, 1 shot, then yeah, that's I think a solid strategy, but, 1 or 2 shots, obviously, but that they weren't able to keep that strategy. So it working in the first, I don't know that I was like, "Oh, maybe we can do this," but I do recall myself when I saw that happen, I was like, "Okay, clearly that's the idea." Like it was clear what they thought needed to happen, right? And then obviously they couldn't keep it up, but it was clear that they had a solid plan to try and keep the defense on the field for Ohio State, which means you keep, more importantly, their stellar offense off the field, which is the only real way you have to win is if they have less chances to try and score because they will score. If they have a shot, they'll probably score. That's just the way you got to look at that team. So yeah, I liked it, but I don't know that I was like, oh wow, maybe we'll do this because it's 1 quarter. You still got 3 quarters of football left. At some point, they're gonna get the ball and score, and you know what? At some point, if you it's a double-edged sword, right, Matt? So if you hold the
Yeah.
ball all quarter, now your offense is tired. What happens when your offense gets tired? What happens if your offense gets banged up? That's when mistakes happen. So it's a fine line that you have to walk, you know? So I don't think that that's a strategy that would have worked for 4 quarters of football. I think they probably needed it to work maybe
And yeah,
2. It didn't work for 2. I think if it had worked for 2, they may have had a shot.
then after
But
that, the Notre Dame game was running game and ground game was non-existent. It seemed
no.
it worked in the beginning, and then Ohio State made the adjustments to give him no mercy. And at
Mhm,
only 53 yards on the ground for Notre Dame
mhm.
rushing, that kind of told that story there. And then compared to Ohio State and his MTV in Judkins,
Yeah, he
obviously the
just
3 touchdowns and
he
then
ran, he
100
caught.
yards 100 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns running in, and then, as you mentioned, a passing touchdown. They kinda did the opposite, but there was
Mhm.
Notre Dame almost felt like, especially towards the second half, where they closed the gap to make it a 1 touchdown game. Ohio State seemed to almost take Notre Dame for granted, and they felt like it was going to be an easy game, and
Maybe, I
they
could
they
see
made him
that.
sweat for a bit until finally Will Howard went to his best player, Jeremiah Smith,
Yeah,
getting that huge 30-yard
that was
pass
a
at the
that
end,
was like I said, that
and
was a bomb too, but,
that was
uh,
the game killer there. They just did
yeah.
what they did best, and, well, we're here, and Ohio State's back as your national champion.
Yeah, and I would say I'm a little I won't say I'm surprised that the run game on the Notre Dame side was as difficult as it was. Obviously, a good run game is also a good pass game because then
Yeah,
they
I mean,
have to
remember
defend
this
both.
just for
Yeah,
reference, Riley Leonard, the running back, had the most rushing yards for the game.
the quarterback, yeah.
Sorry, the quarterback, yeah,
Yeah.
quarterback, yeah.
And so, but he's a good throwing quarterback. He's not just a runner. He can throw the ball fine. And so I could see how you may have thought, oh, it doesn't really matter if the run game's not there because the pass game they have a good quarterback, they have decent receivers. But I do think that that was probably my own like. maybe naivete, right?
Mhm.
I think the reality is a good running game is a good passing game and vice versa because you either have to defend one thing or not. You know what I mean? Like if you've got the run on lockdown, so you know they're going to pass it, now you know what to expect. Whereas if they're able to do what they want, they're able to get passes, they're able to do the run. Now you've got to switch up your defense, and that comes with risk for mistakes and things like that. So I do think that the lack of production on the ground was probably definitely not probably was definitely an issue. Um, but I'm almost surprised that it was the running backs or the running back in Ohio State that really sort of kind of appeared to be the machine moving the team forward because that's not again it's usually the both teams usually the quarterback and their receivers are like the focal point of the offense.
Right, and with Will Howard getting plenty of protection in the game
Mhm.
and everything just hitting right for Ohio State, that's where, we got the result we had, and I think it ultimately came down to them just not taking Notre Dame as
Excuse me.
seriously at the end of the
At
game.
the end, yeah, they thought they could kind of cakewalk to the finish line. Notre Dame snuck up on them, but I mean, yeah, that's really I think that is, like you said, really what it is. When you look at the stats on the team, like, I'm just pulling it forward, there's just no stat that, Notre Dame really has a significant advantage on.
Yeah, they're just straight
Uh,
up outplayed.
yeah, passing yards is the only thing they have a slight edge in terms of passing yards specifically. Um, 4th down efficiency, they technically won on. But I think that's more to do with the lack of 4th down situations Ohio State found itself in. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think yeah, like, it's more of the reason that Ohio State didn't have to convert on 4th down is because they never found themselves in that position.
Right. It was just it
So
was the main thing
yeah.
was just pretty much all Ohio State, and maybe the score itself doesn't reflect on how much of a blowout it really was, but it is what it is. It's interesting things on the number side.
I would never say blowout, but it was definitely I
One-sided.
wouldn't call it competitive. I think it was clear
Okay.
from most of the game Ohio State was gonna win. And even when Notre Dame was on the comeback, it never felt to me like the momentum had actually shifted. It felt like Notre Dame was just scoring now, but it still felt like Ohio was controlling the game. And then as we saw, they ended the game, essentially by throwing all the way downfield. Like I said, a bomb to Jeremiah Smith, and that was that. So I think that people who thought that were correct. Ohio State, maybe they were a little surprised, maybe a little bit on the back foot, but they were never out of control of the situation. They always had that play, presumably, or something similar to it, hidden away. They had the deep threat. They knew they had the deep threat, and so they finally, busted it out when they needed it to keep some distance between the surge and Notre Dame. But
Man, heck, maybe even in that very first drive, it's almost like Notre Dame gave everything they had the whole week of preparation for that,
that
and they're
first drive,
still and they're still I think that ended around the 9.5 minute mark, that drive, and they
yeah,
still, have pretty much 3.5, 3.75, like 3 quarters of the game still to go.
yeah, and that's the thing, like that kind of strategy of hold the ball is really hard to do over the course of 4 quarters of football. Because again, football is a physical sport. People are getting hit. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to hold the ball that long means you're on the field, you're tossing the football, you're running the football, you're blocking. You just you do need to get off the field and let the defense take over at some point. And I understand why they didn't want to do that, but it was never going to work full time. Again, if they had made it work 2 full quarters, scoreless in 2 full quarters, 7-0 at half, okay, I'd be like, wow, the plan was working. And yes, obviously the offense is going to get tired and going to make mistakes, but they only have a half now of mistakes. Is there enough time for Ohio State to come back and put this out of reach? That would have been, I think, the takeaway had they been able to execute over the first half, which was probably the plan.
Mm.
But they weren't. Like I said, they did really well in the first quarter, and then the second quarter, Ohio State just didn't stop scoring. This is
I think
21
that's pretty much
in
the
the
tail
second
of the
quarter.
tape
Yeah.
there, and you don't think there is any alternate universe Notre Dame could have been more prepared? It was just a matter I mean, because they honestly had the very best they had the best case scenario to start the game. They
Yep.
just they just had the momentum stripped away after the,
Yeah, and
lead
I
started.
don't know that Notre Dame was underprepared. I think two teams prepare all year, really. I mean, obviously specifically for the game this past week, but all year they're trying to get to this moment, and now they're there. One of them is just better than the other. That happens. Sometimes you're just the second best team. That's where Notre Dame found itself, you know, this particular time around. I don't know that will always be the case, but that's where it ended up this time. Ohio, obviously, we talked about this last time. Their coach from Ryan Day was in a little bit of hot water this year, despite how good his team was, or maybe because of how good his team was. Obviously, that's all fixed now. Defending champ, they're not going to get rid of their coach if they're the defending champions. So unless he decides to leave to go somewhere, who knows? But I don't think so. He's got way more. It's much smarter for him to stay put. So I think that he saved his job. Maybe some of that had to do with that. He was coaching to save his job, and he did. Gets another crack at Michigan, which he's going to want. I feel bad for the team because those seniors have never beaten Michigan, but
Well, they got a
but
national championship
that's right. They
instead.
get a national championship, so I think that's a decent enough consolation prize to losing to Michigan 4 years in a row.
Hey, I think that's a good way to put it in perspective. I think that is a great productive conversation on what happened.
Mm,
This wasn't exactly a classic. This wasn't for the history books, but
no, it was
Ohio
fun.
State got the victory, and Notre Dame. We'll talk quickly on where the future is for both of these schools, where college football is going, and all of that.
Mhm.
But I just want to say the excitement of college football has unfortunately come to an end. You don't need to lose all your energy, attention, and excitement because college football is over. You could keep those amped up feelings and going into a new year, not by watching basketball or getting ready for pitchers and catchers for baseball, but with the help of our friends at Magic Mind. Ryan, Magic Mind has definitely been a blessing since
Mm,
we learned about this product and got our hands on it. I've certainly have enjoyed it. I've had many beneficial effects both for the mood boosting Magic Mind shots and the sleep aid Magic Mind shots. What has it been like for you?
yeah, so I just started on the sleep ones. Like I said last time, they had just come in, so now I've used them for a little bit, and I do notice a difference. I'm able to fall asleep faster, and I would say that that's something that I've always had a problem with. The way, like, I don't know, people. I'm not saying I do or don't have like insomnia, but I have a hard time falling asleep. I always have, and for some people, it's like, oh, you wake up in like the middle of the night, and then it's hard to fall back asleep. I've never had that issue. Once I fall asleep, I'm usually okay. The problem is I can't fall asleep. I can't get myself in like that mood or in that mindset to fall asleep. And so for me, the sleep thing has been really helpful because it's helped me fall asleep even more than the Magic Mind, like traditional Magic Mind shots did. And those did help me kind of regulate a sleep schedule as well. So definitely enjoying the sleep ones. Even more so, I'd say, than the energy. But it's funny because the energy one, you mentioned amped up, right? But while it is something that improves my energy for sure, and again has started to do so already since I started taking it again, um, it doesn't get me jittery. And that's what I like about that Magic Mind. It's not like a one time like shot of all that sugar and caffeine that you buy at like a gas station or whatever. It's a actual product, like a supplement. You can find it with like the juices and the vitamins at the local grocery store, at least near me. down in like the DMV area. So the company is like 100% legit and safe and all natural, organic, grown remedies. Um, it's just like I said, it's a product that makes you healthier beyond just like giving you energy and focus because you're putting in these good like vitamins and stuff. And again, we've already talked about the sleep shot. Get a good night's rest. It helps me regulate when I fall asleep, so I feel more refreshed when I wake up. And yeah, like I said, the sleep one. This is my first time doing, talking about it after having done the sleep one, and so I can confirm that it's incredibly incredibly helpful, at least for me, to like help me fall asleep, which has always been my big thing.
I'm happy that batch is in. I'm happy to hear some positive effects you're getting from it. And the
Mhm.
original Magic Mind shots still provide mental clarity and energy meant to boost your ADP, the engine that powers you throughout the day. It supplements that restful sleep to keep you feeling ready all day long without a sugar or caffeine crash, and
Mm.
you will have before and you will have bef- and you will be performing much better thanks to its unique blends of vitamins and nootropics.
Yeah, and you can't like beat the price. We talk a lot about prices recently. Check out our tweet cap from that was out yesterday, or yeah, yesterday, about the inauguration and stuff. Prices are kind of an important thing on people's minds right now, as it should be. Things are expensive. But Magic Mind, like if you go per bottle that you get, it costs roughly the same as what you'd be paying to grab another coffee at work, or to get an energy drink or energy shot, the soda that you get at lunch when you just try and perk yourself up. But all those come, like you said, with that crash, like you mentioned. So to me, like the cost is exactly the same. They back this product up 100% for 100 days. So your money is safe. If it doesn't work, you get your money back. It's no health risks. They have great service. Magic Mind, they're awesome. We've known them for a long time now. And lasting results because it physically changes your body. Your body is doing this. It's not this magic potion. It's your body kind of learning and getting what it needs to do what it's supposed to do. So to me, it's a no brainer. I would say that Magic Mind's just a perfect mix of cost benefit and healthy supplement.
That's what I like to hear. There's no doubt about that. Magic Mind is now offering bundles with both sleep and focus boosting shots, along with other awesome products that we have tried. They're
Mhm.
also working with groups dedicated to mental health services for homeless Americans. They walk the walk, talk the talk, and we are happy to have their support on this show. Don't hesitate another week. Get some Magic Mind to help you achieve your goals. It isn't a miracle, it's a proven remedy to help your body do what it naturally does best. And I promise you that you won't regret learning about it. If you're ready to buy, January is the month to do so because it's Mental Health Challenge Month. So there's no better time for it. We have an exciting deal to share with you, the most incredible fans in the world and online. Right now, you could get 45% off the Magic Mind bundle that is sleep and focus boosting shots by using the link magicmind.com/PCJAN. We also have that in the episode description below. But again, go to magicmind.com/PCJAN for this unbelievable 45% off deal. Our friends at Magic Mind can only offer this deal during Mental Health Challenge Month, so you do not want to wait. But why would you? There's never been a
Yeah.
better time to try the product, change your life, and reclaim your brain. So, Ryan, as that is a wrap for college football,
Yep.
we're back at it again at the very end of August,
Yep.
that last week of August, first week of January.
Hmm.
College football playoff. This was the first year of the 12-team playoff. Though the ratings haven't been released yet, I haven't seen. I feel it was so. I feel it could have gotten more hype. I think it could have been more interesting, to be honest with you. I think the 12-team playoffs is a good idea, but I think it'd be worth expanding that to maybe 16 teams and having the games closer together, not so spread out, and
Hmm.
still competing with the NFL. You're just not going to win. And I know it's hard to do that and capture the country while the NFL is doing its thing and holidays and all of that, but
Right.
let's be real. No one talked about the bowl season whatsoever, unless the hardcore college football fans. So maybe it's time to really
Mm.
focus on college football play. Obviously, there's are some bowls and they're important, no doubt, and there is a culture there. But again, as we're trying to keep up with NIL and all the money going in and the transfer portal, I think to add more hype to this, there might be some scheduling changes, and that does include adding more schools to the college football playoff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily jump to 16 this year. I think you want to maybe do another year or two at 12. My
Mhm.
thing is, and I do believe this, I don't know how anyone can make, in at least in good faith, the argument that a four-team, or even just what they used to do, which is just picking two of the teams, who won, like, a bowl game, just picking one of them to do it, or two of them to do it. I don't see how that game gets any more hype. Like, we talked about this. There's a world where it was unlikely, of course. There's a world where, like, you know, ASU and Penn play this game, right? ASU catches a lucky break. Oregon holds off, barely holds off Ohio, loses to ASU in the squeaker. Penn does exactly what it did, but wins instead of loses to Notre Dame. And then that's two, we'll call that subprime teams playing for the championship that no one has ever cheered for. And they've never been in that position to carry the entire, the national championship load. That's not what we got. We got Ohio State and Notre Dame. Both of those teams have been champions, right? Both of those teams scream prestige college football. You know what I mean? So the idea that, oh, this was because we had the 12 team and let undeserving teams in, that's why it had less hype. I don't buy that. I think for sure you're right that the schedule layout's a problem. The week zero's got to go. Week zero has always been stupid. Start all the games at the same time, unless you want the first week off as one of your bye, and fine, do that. But they need to cut the first week of college football, or rather, they need to shift the first week to be where week zero is. So just hit the ground running, start right away. That saves you a week, which gets you away from late January, because late January they should not be playing college football.
Yeah, that is hello. That's really long. If you start your season in the summer, all the way stretching it to now, that's a long time.
It's incredibly long, and, like, so January 1st was now 3 weeks ago. I truly believed we should have been wrapped up by the 8th.
Yeah.
By January 8th, this should have been done. And so, again, first things first, you do move that. The second thing you got to do is you've got to put some games closer together. It might be bowl games to make room, on prime time for the playoff games. It might mean some bowl games are being played while other games are being played. You know what I mean? So, like, you got to come up with a schedule that gets you done roughly about the 8th. You want, like, the Rose Bowl or, like, the Peach Bowl. Like,
You have to
I
have
would
those
say
on
you
New Year's Day, like those New Year's Day ones at least.
right, like, it's like the Rose Bowl, and, like, those are New Year's Day. That
Rose Bowl,
semifinals.
Peach Bowl, Orange Bowl, Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, and then I would
Mm,
say if you can, and this is probably where they're not allowed to, because that's the first. You'd almost want to have like two in a row, not in a row, personally, like, but for beginning of the week, end of the week sort of thing. You want to do like a Tuesday and like a Friday or Saturday for the
mhm.
championship. And I understand that probably increases the risk of injury, and so they'll never do it. But again, I really do think that if you get too much past like the 10th of January, you're losing people. Um, so I think that is the first thing they should do. They should focus on that. Also, they should try and work around the NFL a little better. Uh, like, the NFL starts playing on Saturdays when? Like,
Well,
December,
they
right?
legally can't do it until the end of December
December,
when
yeah.
college football's like they
Used
can't have
to
a conflict of interest. That's what they can't
right.
do.
So
Like that's
they
literally through Congress. They made
No, I
that
know
law.
that, yeah. But so, obviously, we're not gonna be wrapped up by December in college football. So, I think that you need to put your big games on, like, Fridays, as many as you can. Friday night needs to become, like, a postseason dream for college football. Throw some of the lesser known bowl games on Saturday. You know what I mean? And like that'll just save you some headache. No one was going to watch those games anyway. And so you put those on, let the diehards watch that. Everybody else will watch the NFL. You know, NFL doesn't usually start till when? They don't start until like
It's the weekend after Labor
1.
Day.
No, but like 1 o'clock, I'm saying, is like
Yes,
their
Sunday
first
at
career
1.
kickoff. But then Saturday is usually around the same time, the first game when they're allowed to do Saturdays. So once the NFL starts doing Saturdays, maybe you want to do some earlier Saturday games that are important. Maybe some of the more important bowl games, like I don't know, the Pop Tarts Bowl or something. Like, you know what I mean? Gator Bowl. Like some of those, you want to move those. You want to just move things around so your premier products are not competing with the NFL. And I think that that would be enough for next season. And then if we still see, maybe we should up the ante, get some more teams in there. Sure, but I think that going to 16 now doesn't necessarily fix. It fixes the buys. You get rid of the buys, I guess. But um, other than that, I don't know how it fixes enough to to do that. I think 12 is fine for now if you do these other changes, the scheduling changes.
Yeah, we'll see where that goes. And now a lot of teams are going to switch up their rosters, NIL deals,
Yeah.
transfer portals. You want to know one thing? You know, Ohio State put $20 million into their roster this year. And that was
Mhm.
one thing when I was watching these post-game conferences. Oh, we went through so much. Oh, so much struggle. No, you didn't. You were supposed to be here. Let's be real. Especially when you literally invest in your team like that.
Yeah, well, and I think that this is one of the first seasons, by the way, where we saw a lot of teams invest a lot of money
In college.
in college
Just
football.
that's why this is
I'm
just the minor leagues, not even college football anymore.
right. Well, I
They're
mean,
professionals at this point.
right, but more importantly, I think that this year, I think proved beyond a doubt that
You
money,
gotta pay to win.
yeah, money does pay for
This ain't Hoosiers
right. Money does pay for better
product.
odds. And so before, I don't care. What do I care? It's a podcast. I can say what I want. Before, only one of the conferences was doing that because it wasn't allowed. Now they're all doing it to some degree. The power conferences are for sure doing it. I mean, honestly, you can obviously not 20 million, but look at Colorado. They got a new stadium. Obviously, they spent a lot on their coach. They've done a lot of advancing as an organization and bringing in new money. Um, Indiana actually has been growing in terms of the money they have to offer. And this year they saw that pay off with a solid season and a playoff shot. Didn't pan out, but they ended up losing to the team that
To
got
start.
second place.
Yeah.
So it's a start for a team that was never even in a conversation before. You know what I mean? Um, so I think that, yeah, this proved that all of the teams that can put together a large amount of capital can be competitive, can be over competitive. And so, one, I think you're going to see some teams who used to rely on prestige really have to start figuring out what they can offer people.
Mhm,
And I'm thinking in my brain of teams like Oklahoma, thinking of teams like Mizzou.
mhm.
Again, mostly SEC teams. Oklahoma's new to the SEC, but still. Um, Michigan, obviously, Michigan has tons of money. This was a weird year for them. I'm sure they'll be back, but like before, being Oklahoma was enough. Being Mizzou was enough.
Ha!
That's all you needed to be. Just needed to be that school. That's no longer the case because in addition to the schools that are better than you in your conference, Illinois can spend $20 million and suddenly they're a threat. I mean, Illinois was the same record as Alabama, Ole Miss, like you know what I mean? They didn't
Yeah.
have nearly as much money as any of those other schools that they were in line with in terms of their standing. So, you get some investment from some wealthy alumni at the University of Illinois, and suddenly now that's a threat to take one of those spots. So, yeah, money is the great equalizer, and now that everybody is using it the same way, some of the teams that were able to kind of save money by just being legacy teams are going to need to pony up. They're going to need to spend more if they want to continue being relevant. regardless of their legacy or their conference.
That's a great explanation. We'll see where this all pans out. And I only hope that it's interesting. We will revisit college football again in a couple months when the NFL draft comes your
Hmm.
way at the end of April. So we'll get ready for that.
Yes.
And yeah, that's all she wrote. The second
Yeah.
full season of college football covered by Productive Conversations is done. Check that off. Only three, no, not three, two more football games left
Till the
for
Super
the
Bowl.
NFL. We got no three, sorry. We got
Yeah.
three
The
more
Super Bowl is
left
the
in
last one.
general.
Yeah.
Two conference championships and a Super Bowl. And then yeah, that is going to complete another year of football, but we still got plenty of time before then. But the college football season was a successful one.
I think
We'll
so.
see you next year with it. So great work, Ryan. Great work,
Thank you.
everybody. Don't forget to check out the division. Sorry. Don't forget to check out the conference championship preview being released to you all on Friday, as well as the Productive Conversations regular tweet cap this Friday as well. All right, Ryan, we'll see you very soon. And college football, we'll see you again before you
This
know it.
summer. Yep.